This is it, folks. This is week 17. And if you are out there and you're listening to the Fantasy Football Buzz podcast, hopefully that means that you've made it to your championship game, just like Cyclops has, just like I have, and I'm sure just like many of you out there have as well. Yes, I'm on that side, this side. It's always opposite.
That's right.
Right. This is week 17, and your rosters should be set at this point. However, COVID, injuries, opportunities for streaming are out there. Brad, how's it going? What are you saying? How's life treating you?
So, life couldn't be better. I gotta say, getting into the new year, just about, and I'm still alive in 3 of my 6 leagues.
That's incredible.
One consolation game and one that is more of a points league than head-to-head. Although we do head-to-head, but points are gotta have like half of the pot, which is something I want to talk about tonight. And I'm in 3rd place in points there. I dropped from 2nd to 3rd. Or 2nd to 4th, whatever it is, but it's 2nd to 4th is really close. So I have a lot to watch next week. I have a lot to look at my rosters this week, right? Because there's injuries, there's a lot of things going on. There's matchups, there's COVID, and just like last week, it's going to be a dated, like almost like a minute-to-minute thing where you're like dropping and adding people constantly.
Yeah, and it's, today has been such an incredibly eventful day in the NFL with the new COVID protocols, with people who were on the COVID list, who are no longer on the COVID list, people going on the COVID list that it's okay, you can now play. And of course, we lost John Madden. That just came across the news wires within the past half hour. I just want to spend a minute, if that, on this with John Madden. I know we're going to be overloaded with information on ESPN and every news outlet because he is newsworthy. But my own personal memory is nothing but hate for John Allen. I mean, for John Madden, and not hating the person, but hating what he represented with the Oakland Raiders. And as a Dolphin fan, we were brought up, at the time we talk about the Jets, we talk about Buffalo, we talk about New England. But when I was a kid, it was Oakland.
The Raiders. Yeah.
It was the Raiders. And the fact that in 1974, after we had already won the Super Bowl in 72 and 73, we were ready to go in 74. And the Raiders beat us at the end of the season in the playoffs. That prevented us from going again to the Super Bowl. And it was terrible. So John Madden, I was never a fan. It wasn't until I was older that I started to appreciate what he accomplished. But, as a kid, you grow up not liking him. And then with the video game, no matter how old my kids were, they always kicked my ass in Madden. So I just never found that love. But no, I in all seriousness, as a person, as I got older and I started learning more about what kind of person he was, it turned into more respect than anything else.
Yeah, there was, as much as you wanted, as we, let's say, not everybody, hated the Raiders just because of, the silver and black and the whole thing. I'm a couple years younger than you, not that many, but so mine goes in a little bit to his broadcasting, and he was a blast to watch broadcasting.
Oh,
and
100%.
He made Monday Night Football just an event, right? He's the one that made it an event to watch. And that was a blast. And then going into Madden, I was never a huge gamer, but Madden is one of the things I played. And I was never really a good video game person, but you always wanted to play Madden. The worst part about that was the Madden curse, right? Of the front of the video games for years.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. It sounds like we've got some. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, some feedback there.
Yeah, and Ken was calling. I tried to answer it, and it doesn't look like it went through. So
okay, so we'll try back.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, Kenneth, give us a couple minutes. Try back. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, give us a call in 10 minutes, Kenneth. Because what we want to do is kind of talk about, obviously we're going to go through the waivers tonight. We're going to talk about who to pick up if you've made it. One of the things I really want to know is from our regular listeners, whether or not they made it. And if you did not make it, why not? What was your sob story? What happened that prevented you? I said last week, I said, no excuses. We are getting now. If you want to complain, we're ready to listen. Speaking of complaining, Kenneth, how you doing tonight? It looks like we are. Yeah, so it looks like we're. I'll have to fix the technicality issue again. So Kenneth, we'll let you know when the phone's fixed. But in the meantime, go ahead, Brad.
Type in your message, Kenneth, while we're working on fixing that.
Right.
No, So this is one of the questions I have. Okay, yeah, we're going to go through some waivers, and there's not a ton out there this week like there was last week, but there's a few if you need someone. But we go through this whole season, and then you get to the playoffs, and it's a one-game playoff. And if one player sucks for you that week, like for instance for me, Matthew Stafford, right, just had an absolutely awful week and hurt me, and I lost. It was you and I playing, right?
And the thing is, you can't even blame it on lack of fantasy football skill, because the matchup was there. Stafford was supposed to have a good game,
right.
And it wasn't like he got hurt. It's just the football gods are sometimes with you or they're not.
Right. So here's my question: is it more impressive to go through a season and be in the top 2 of points overall, or to win that championship? Right? Because points shows how it goes throughout the whole season, where you're going to have some ups and downs.
Okay, but now we're getting back to the old rotisserie, right? This is the folks who played rotisserie baseball appreciate what you're saying right now. And it wasn't until fantasy football that they started this whole head-to-head matchup to make it look more like the NFL, where the same thing happens. You're in the Super Bowl and you lay an egg. I don't care, New England, if you are undefeated all year long. If you lay an egg in the Super Bowl or David Tyree catches a football on his helmet, you lose. And that's it. There is no more recovery. But I do get what you're saying. And which is why, Brad, you're most likely going to be the points champion in our league, even though you won't be the league champion.
Right.
The head-to-head,
but our points is so minute compared to the head-to-head champion.
Right. So, what are you suggesting that once you get to the playoffs, in other words, you have head-to-head all season long to determine your 6, your 4, whatever slots for the playoffs, and then you go rotisserie style until the end?
I've brought that up before. And I think that is a possibility. It's hard to say. Like,
I think it proves who the better team is.
I think in our league, let's say it was the top 6, and after the first 2 weeks, the 2 lowest points drop out, or the 3 lowest points drop out, and then it goes to the top 3, and those guys. So like the 4th place team doesn't get to play that last week for total points or something. There's obviously 1,000 different ways to do it. The bottom line is, what's more impressive, right? What should be weighted more?
Look, the NFL doesn't do that. The NFL doesn't say.
But this isn't the NFL. Team. We're fantasy.
I understand it's not the NFL, but that's why we switched to a head-to-head method. But I will agree with this, and I have been in your position, as you know, at least 3 times, where I have been leading. I probably was points champion 3 times and lost in a championship game in our league.
Right.
So I know what you're talking about. I've been there, and it sucks because all year long you're just patting yourself on your back. You're like hurting your arm. You're patting yourself on your back so much because of how well your team is doing. What, Emmitt Smith just got another 4 touchdowns and 200 yards? Great.
Right.
But the point is, when Emmitt Smith doesn't play in the championship game, you're screwed. Right. I agree that if after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever you want to save, your team has the highest amount of points during that span, to me, that shows who the better team is, who did a better job of making sure those points are on your roster. not taking advantage of the fact that your opponent has 8 people on COVID, and you only have 3. I'm just saying, I mean, I get it. True. I get it. I understand. But
there's it is what, and we keep saying this, it is what it is. It's fantasy football. We're lucky to be doing it. It just gets frustrating when things like that happen. And you always say it is what it is until it affects you. And then you're like, well, that sucked.
Well, listen, I think I got the phones working. So give it another try. 772-800 Buzz or 2899, or go ahead and ask your questions in the comment section of YouTube Live or Facebook Live. Like I said, we're going to go through the waivers for week 17. If you're still playing, look, you might be playing for a consolation prize. You might be playing so that you don't end up with the worst record and end up with the tattoo or whatever the thing is.
We should do that.
Yeah, I really want to hear what it's like for all of you out there, what your leagues are like. Do you have a winner based on head-to-head, based on points? Do you have a loser prize? I'm curious. So go ahead and give us a call or put your comment in YouTube Live, Facebook Live. Looks like Kenneth has a question here. Main issue is with Thielen versus Green Bay. Is my concern valid for next week to start, or do I have Amon St. Brown versus Detroit?
Isn't Detroit, right? Plays for Detroit.
And
AJ Green
versus Dallas. If Thielen can't go,
you go with St. Brown right here. I mean, Green should have come out and had a really good week this week. Arizona just looks awful.
Yeah,
Green had one catch. Who knows what's going on there. I mean, obviously you lose Hopkins, it hurts. Edmonds had a good game, but I don't know. They just don't seem to be getting the ball downfield there.
Kenneth, does that mean that you are in the championship game in your league? I'm curious if that's the case. We may, and we'll talk about it soon, have a Sunday show to go through our, the starting lineups, because everything's going to be changing. We could give you advice right now, and tomorrow we've got COVID issues, injury issues. So you've got Thielen on your bench, or you've got St. Brown on your bench, you've got AJ Green. I think you're going to be fine with one of them. I don't necessarily, look, do we think maybe pick up a Mckenzie? Possibly. But it looks like you're going to be okay. It's just a matter of which one to start.
Right.
And so you just have to wait and see Sunday morning, I guess, to find out what's going to happen there. So if anybody else has any other questions or comments, go ahead and give us a call or put your comments in YouTube Live or Facebook Live. Brad, if you had to pick up somebody, you have a glaring spot on your roster, who is the number one guy that you have to pick up?
I mean, it's really a crapshoot right now. I mean, for me, it's either Jordan Howard or Darrell, right? Did I say his name right?
Agundawale?
Yes. And he doesn't have a great matchup. He's going against New England, I believe.
Oh, don't kid yourself. But New England really has given up a lot of points to the running back. They can be run on, including Buffalo, who wasn't able to run all season long, and they were able to run against them.
And those are probably my two. Those two running backs. And maybe also Gainwell. Maybe also Boston Scott.
I mean, you brought up Howard. We got Boston Scott, Howard, and Gainwell.
Right.
What we know is that there is going to be a true timeshare.
Correct.
And even if you're talking about, okay, well, this person gets 15 carries, this person gets 11 carries, it doesn't matter, because it's who's going to get the ball on the goal line, who's going to get the ball thrown to them out of the backfield. That's where you're going to get your points.
Right.
So if you have Sanders and you're concerned and you're looking to pick up a running back, put the name in a hat. They're all going to get you, 7 to 10 points. There might be a breakout. One of them might end up doing well, but, it would be impossible, especially at this point, especially before Sunday, to determine which one it is. And I think we're going to find out from practice possibly who's been getting the lion's share of those carries and who we might see.
Yeah, and Rex Burkhead, if he's available in your league, I know it's crazy to, I picked him up earlier in the season. He had a bad game. I ended up dropping him. There was a whole issue in our league. It didn't really become an issue, but an issue to me in our league.
Here's the thing with Rex Burkhead, right? We saw what he did this past week, and anybody that was smart enough to start Rex Burkhead, congratulations, you did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest issue with Rex Burkhead is the matchup.
Right.
They're going to be playing against San Francisco that does not have an easy rush defense to run against. So I'm not saying don't pick him up. What I'm telling people is if you need Rex Burkhead, you can pick him up. Just curb your expectations. Don't assume that he's going to put up another 159 like he did this past week.
No, but he could have a decent game. And also, crazy enough, they're moving the ball, that Houston team. Now, it was a good matchup. It was San Diego last week. The Chargers last week, not LA Chargers.
And the Chargers we saw what the Chargers did. They have one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL. Anybody and everybody can run against them. Even New Orleans.
The only thought process in San Francisco is that Garoppolo is probably not going to play, right, with his thumb. So you got Trey Lance. So maybe they're going to have the ball a little bit more.
I don't know. Look, Trey Lance.
He's looked good. I know.
He has looked good when he came in and played. In fact, he's one of my top streamers this week. If you need a quarterback. But I get what you're saying. I completely get what you're saying. With David Johnson inactive, Rex Burkhead was able to shine.
Who else is there?
He's flex worthy. I would agree. But again, it's a tough matchup. No, like I said, if you have to grab a running back, will I take Agunbowale over Rex Burkhead? Yes, I will. Yep. Mainly because we know that he's the only guy. Not only did he get close to 20 runs after Robinson went out a few days ago, but it is against New England defense, which has been able to give up yards against the rush.
Right.
I like Burkhead.
And because of Jones is out, you have because Fournette is out, you potentially could pick up Keyshawn Vaughn. Right. Ronald Jones is going to be picked up already, but Keyshawn Vaughn, we saw that he had a fantastic run.
I understand, but let me ask you a question, Brad. In all seriousness, now I play you in our dynasty league, and you had a roster spot. I would love for you to start Keyshawn Vaughn. My point is, you have to be really desperate to grab the number 2 guy on the Bucs. And I understand garbage time. He has the ability to get a bunch of passes out of the backfield. But
and they play the Jets, Tampa, is that right? I think they play the Jets,
which is one of the worst. And they're just as bad as. So
if they're up, it turns into a backup show, right?
Yeah, quite possibly. But look, here's the thing. You've got 2 guys that are possibly on your waiver wire who could be the guy who's going to carry the ball. Right. Rex Burkhead, like you said, is one of them. Right. And Agunbowale is the other one. So if you need to pick up a running back, those are your guys. On the quarterback side, we already talked about Trey Lance coming in. He's going to most likely he's going to replace Jimmy G in San Francisco. Pretty good stream there. I don't know if there's too many other quarterbacks. Josh Johnson actually did a good job, but we don't know. Lamar Jackson may be back, and now with these new COVID rules, Huntley might be back. So,
what about Roethlisberger?
I really don't want to talk about Roethlisberger. He is clearly one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. He really should retire. It was embarrassing.
That was bad. I know that was a personal joke.
Yeah, that was a terrible pickup. But And then on the wide receiver side, I had mentioned to Kenneth, I was talking about Isaiah McKenzie with Buffalo.
Yep.
Everyone grabbed Emmanuel Sanders thinking he was going to be the guy that, since Cole Beasley was out, since Gabriel Davis was out. Again, these are two guys that were on a COVID list that may no longer be required. We all thought, look, they're unvaccinated. You have to wait at least 10 days. Now they're saying if you're unvaccinated, it's 5 days if you no longer have symptoms, and you don't need you don't need a negative test. You just need you to raise your hand and say, no, coach, I'm feeling fine. And guess what? You're playing.
Because the CDC came out with new rules saying you're the most
vulnerable. Yeah.
You're vulnerable and,
contagious.
Contagious for 2 days before and 2 days after when you have symptoms.
Right.
So then they're going to the 5 days and they're saying, okay, you're out. You're good now. I mean, clearly all of that is working with over 400 cases in the month of December in the NFL.
Which means, and this is big for some people, and I don't know how big it is for some people, but that means that Carson Wentz could be playing because he could be completely, have a fever and a cold. But if on his honor system he says he's fine, they would let him play, which is a shame. But that's how it goes. Now, I'm not a big Wentz fan as far as fantasy goes. So
it might not matter for Wentz, but it might matter for Taylor. It might matter for Pittman, right? Yep. There's other players involved in that decision.
Yes,
for sure.
Right.
I mean, you're going to play Taylor one way or the other, obviously.
Right. Yeah, which means that Ian Book, that could be the end of his career too.
Yeah.
But it also means that players like Dalvin Cook, who were on the COVID, they were unvaccinated, which meant he was going to miss the game this weekend. Games, right. He may be able to play. So, guys, all I'm telling you, I'm stressing, you've got to keep checking your wires. Check Roto News. Check ESPN and CBS. You've got to just see what's going on because it'll change daily.
Yeah.
So, we could sit here and tell you who to pick up. Most likely, your roster's fine. I mean, I hate to be so flip about it, but your roster's probably fine.
There were, I don't feel like from last week to this week that there was that impact injury.
Right.
From last,
except for Robinson.
Right.
Which, luckily, I picked up Ogunbowale last week in the event that Robinson got hurt. And he is projected in ESPN to get 11 points against that New England defense, which for a flex is not bad. I'll take 11 points all day for my flex.
I mean, the other, Darrell Henderson came in the game and he got hurt. So Sonny Michel, they're saying Akers may play this week, but I don't
he won't get enough.
He won't be right. He'll have a couple plays here and there, but Michel's going to be the guy again this week.
And somebody else that you absolutely have to go grab if he's not already taken in your league is Darrell Williams in Kansas City, because CEH is not a COVID issue; it's an injury issue.
And Gore.
I mean, again, just like Keyshawn Vaughn, these are the secondary pickup of the guys, but it's going to be Darrell Williams who will get the bulk of the carries in Kansas City. Let me see. This past week, Darrell Williams got 11 carries, 55 yards, 3 catches for 30 yards.
And what did Gore have?
I'll have to look that up.
We'll have to look. Let me see if I can find that real quick while you're.
I have it here. Derek Gore got 12 carries, so he got one more carry, 43 yards, 3 catches for 61 yards. So he looked good as well. Again, look, you can try to pick up Gore and then and Williams, and then just see by Sunday if there's any clarity as to who the starter is going to be.
Kenneth here says he put a claim in for Devonta Smith. Is that a wise move? Yeah, I mean
he's not very consistent. He'll have a good week, a bad week. Here's Kenneth. Hey Kenneth, how are you?
Oh, pretty good. First off, my condolences to those that are affected by the passing of John Madden.
Yep.
I went ahead and put in a claim for one Devonta Smith.
Yeah, we were just answering. We were just talking about Devonta Smith, that he did have a good week last week. The week before, he was non-existent. So all we're saying is that there's not that consistency. Yes, they're playing against the Washington defense, which was supposed to be good, and they're not. But look, he had 5 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. It gave him 16.5 points. The week before at Washington, he only got 5 points. Then against the Jets, 2 points. Against the Giants, 3 points. Against New Orleans, 8 points. I'm just saying that, if you don't have a better option, fine. But I wouldn't be – it's not an automatic for me when it comes –
The only reason why I put in a claim is I wanted to make sure I had an option in the event that Thielen couldn't go.
Right.
Right. I understand, but I think St. Brown is a better option
Okay.
than Devonta Smith at this point.
Agreed.
Now, if you're wondering, I did not make the title match.
But I wouldn't be it sounds like we're in an echo chamber.
Sorry.
Well, I'm sorry you didn't make the title match.
If it wasn't for the Dallas taking out Dak, I probably would have made the final.
You need a team quarterback is what you need.
Oh,
please. We used to play team quarterback.
Don't even.
And your quarterback went down, whoever comes in, or they take him out, whoever plays the rest of the game, you get those points as well. So that's something you might want to bring up to your league next year. Now, listen, Thielen, like you said, keep an eye on it. He was just sore. It wasn't like an MRI came back where he's got something major. So, keep an eye on the news there. If Thielen is healthy, I may play him over St. Brown, although it would be pretty close.
But in the event that Thielen can't go,
yes, then Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate y'all taking my call.
No problem. Don't forget to join us
Kenneth.
next week. So speaking of next week, let me just preview that here right now. We're going to have our last show next week. And in that show, we're going to have the Buzzy Awards where I'm going to dress up and we're going to present some awards for the season, some of the best players, some of the biggest surprises, things like that. We'll do a year in review, talk about what we anticipated, what we didn't anticipate to happen. It's always our fun show. It's always our best show, and we would love for everyone to join us. Of course, we will continue to take calls and comments throughout that night, and we hope that everyone can join us on that.
That should be a lot of fun. We'll go over the busts, which are a lot this year. We'll go over, the disappointments, guys that showed up that
what I want to do, one of the things I want to do is I want to take a look, every year, not just us, but everybody that talks fantasy football goes through a sleeper list. Oh, here are the sleepers, right?
Yeah.
You're the guys that you're going to want to get at your end of your draft. I want to look at that sleeper list from August.
Oh, yeah. I
want to read it, and I want to go through, and I want to see how accurate that sleeper list was. So what I also want to do, and we'll talk about this next week, is who had the better position in the draft this year? Was it early? Was it people who had picks 1 through 3? Or the people that had picks 8 through 10 or 10 through 12? If you're in a 12-man league, because they always say every year it really doesn't matter. But each year, if you take a look at the end of the year, it does matter. And I think you will see, based on availability and what's out there, will determine whether or not that beginning of the draft was better than the end of the draft.
You think the beginning than the end this year?
I don't know. We're going to talk about it.
I thought you were making that statement. Yeah, no, I think I have my clear cut thought on that for this particular year.
Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that next week, and we'll also go through all of our dollar bets and see what we got pending. So
what did you write down the other night? What was that?
I have too many things. I have too many things written on my dollar, so we'll have.
You wrote them on the dollar?
Oh yeah.
Oh, guy.
That way I never lose it.
Well, whatever they were, 2020 lost all of them.
Yes.
We'll just let them.
Yes. Well, that's what happens when you become a special guest of the show. Okay, so it doesn't. I mean, I don't know what else to talk about. We went through our waivers.
Yeah.
You know, we just everybody. The fact that I'm playing you in fantasy is fantastic. That we've got this dynasty league. Yes, I am going to beat you.
Probably like you did this week.
Yeah, that wasn't expected though. And I'll say it live on the air, even though I did beat you in my main league or our main league. I definitely think, Brad, you had the best team this season, and you deserve to win the entire season. But you know, like you said, sometimes it comes down to that one game.
Yeah.
And in my case, it comes down to the Miami Dolphin defense.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and that gets into the. Do you root for your team or do you root for fantasy, right? And how do you separate that while you're watching last night? Last night, right? So for people that don't know, I had Alvin Kamara going against Seth's Miami Dolphins defense, and we're both huge Dolphin fans. So I'm watching.
You were up by 24.
And I was up by 24 going into the game. And all day, Commish and I were back and forth. And I'm like, no, you have a chance. And he's like, no, I don't. I'm going to lose. I'm like, no, just really. Like, I'm looking at it. So anyway, we go into the game. I'm watching. And all I'm yelling, and I told you this earlier, is throw the ball away, Book. Throw it away. Stop taking sacks. It's like, I know they've taught you this. But he couldn't, and the Dolphins got 8 sacks, which should have been like 3 sacks.
8 sacks, 2 interceptions. They held them to under 200 yards.
Everything,
a touchdown. Right, they did not have a blocked punt or a blocked field goal or special team touchdown.
But man, that was like the perfect storm of a defensive night for you, and I have to be happy about it because the Dolphins won. And right now we're sitting in the 6th playoff spot. So what are you going to do?
Right. Absolutely. All right. Well, that's all I have for tonight. We went through our pickups. If you can get a Gunbowale, go ahead and grab them. Rex Burkhead, another possibility out there. We don't know what to tell you about Boston Scott or Jordan Howard or even Kenneth Gainwell, who's going to get those carries. Jarrett Patterson, just throwing that out there, is another guy with the football team that, because McKissick's on IR, just to have as a handcuff in case something happens to Gibson during the week.
Right.
Receivers, we talked about Mckenzie. If one of the Green Bay receivers, whether it's MBS or Lazard, are available, those are also some options for you. So that's really all I have. And thanks everybody again for listening. And we will be back. I don't know. It will either be back Sunday, but we know we will be back for sure next week for our final show. And we really hope that everybody can join us for our final show. We would love to have everyone and hear how you ended up this year so we can celebrate you guys as well.
All right. Have a good week. Good luck to you. Good luck in our league. Good luck in the league we play against each other, our other league.
Yep.
And I hope I win all my other leagues.
All right. Take care.